Hey Web3 explorers, find out today how Gala Friends is enhancing its gaming and entertainment ecosystem with a bundle of desirable features other social networks just don't offer. And learn more about over a dozen truly fun and gamer-friendly titles Gala has or will soon be launching, including one Hold'em competition fans will see at the tables. Then we head over to Makana to learn about Mochaverse's next big experiment, a captivating cosmic hunt where Mocha holders can dig for remarkable relics. All this and more on today's special Edge of Gala and Mochaverse Moment episode. Stay tuned.
Welcome to the Edge of NFT, the podcast that brings you the top 1% of Web3 today and what will stand the test of time. We explore the nuts and bolts of the business side and also the human element of how Web3 is changing the way we interact with the things we love. This podcast is for the dreamers, disruptors, and doers who are pumped about this ecosystem and driving where it goes next.
Today's sponsored episode is recorded live in downtown LA. It's the beginning of a new series we're calling Edge of Gala, where we explore this unique and vast ecosystem crossing gaming, music, and film. I'm joined by Jason Brink and Neil Haran, and we'll talk a little bit about these gentlemen and get into what they're doing together. Jason, aka BitBender, is the president of blockchain and boring speak for those who must have a title, and Neil Haran is the CEO and founder of Rep. And they're doing a lot of building in the metaverse with Play to Learn, RawBots, Planets, all sorts of other fun projects. And if you don't know already, Gala Games is a community uplifting powerhouse defining new frontiers in Web3 entertainment. So guys, it's great to have you here in person. Jason, I don't know if we've had an IRL moment in a while.
We haven't, man. It's been a long time since we've been able to actually connect face to face. So it's great to be here in beautiful Los Angeles, and I always have a problem with Los Angeles, man. I grew up in California. Yeah. Wheels are coming off a little bit, but it is nice to be back here anyway, to be hanging out with everybody.
I will say the food scene keeps getting better, and it really still is an epicenter of creativity and culture, across all the different areas of your ecosystem that you've been busy building. What's been going on since we last got together?
That's a really big question. It's a really big question, man. There's a lot that's going on right now in our space. Gala Games, as you know, has been pushing the boundaries in everything that we've done since day one. And some stuff that's coming up that's pretty important to us is we're in the process of bringing new people onto our L1 Gala chain. This is one of the reasons that Neil and I are here together. We're pushing hard into music and film. We've got game launches that are just stacked up throughout the end of the year, and lots more coming to the platform. A few things are coming to the platform really soon. Champions Arena is launching next week. We've got Poker Go that's launching in September. We've got, Q4 launches for a few different titles. Pretty amazing stuff coming out, and I'm very pleased to be part of it.
Yeah, that's why we wanted to do this series, right? There's not a lot of companies that are building so much right now like you guys, and there's a lot to unpack. So it's
more than I can personally keep track of. Like literally every time I turn around, we're doing something else that I was unaware of. And it's a great opportunity to, and this is one of the reasons that we wanted to do this with you, to sit down and kind of drill into some of what's going on in the ecosystem.
Yeah, hopefully it's like a forcing function for you guys cataloging all this amazing stuff you're building.
Yeah, it would be nice. It'd be nice.
Well, let's cover some of the games that you mentioned, and we'll go into more details on why you guys have come together. But tell us a little bit more about Champions Arena and Poker Go.
Sure. So Champions Arena is a fully mobile game that is launching here very soon. It is a RPG. It's kind of a Korean-style RPG battler. It's very, very fun, extremely high production values. It's an absolutely gorgeous game if you haven't had a chance to look at it yet. So that's launching. One Universe is our development partner on that in Korea, and I have honestly not been this excited about a game in a while. So it's definitely worth checking out.
So when you said the word fun, I heard the word addictive, like that this is actually, one of the reasons you don't know what's going on in your company is because you're too busy playing Champions Arena.
I really wish that was the case. I really wish that was the case. I think I've been able to put like 1 or 2 hours into Champions Arena. That's all I've been able to put time into it. But it is extremely fun. It reminds me, did you ever play Final Fantasy VII?
I've played Final Fantasy.
Okay. You've not played 7?
Not 7.
Okay, maybe we can't be friends anymore.
All right, I'm gonna play it this weekend. Okay. How about that?
Well, just cancel the next week and a half and just really lean into it. It has a battle system that for me is very reminiscent of Final Fantasy VII, which is one of my favorite games of all time. And so it's really cool. It's a lot of fun.
And then what's unique about Poker Go? Because there's been other poker games out there, right? But it's a fun genre.
It is a fun genre. One of the things that I think is very unique about Poker Go is that it has a sweepstakes-based system of earning built into it. So essentially you come in, you play, and by playing you are essentially earning spots in a sweepstakes, a leaderboard-based sweepstakes with actual, Gala-based prizes. So I think that that's a pretty cool thing. The thing is Poker Go, okay, Poker Go is the company that is responsible for pretty much all of the global broadcast poker that you see. So World Series of Poker, all of that, they do all of the broadcasting of all of that. And for many, many years, within all of those broadcasts, there's been advertisements for the World Series of Poker application. There is not any longer. There is now advertisements for Poker Go Live from Gala Games. And so that's something that I think is pretty cool. And the Poker Go logo is going to be on the felt at the World Series of Poker and all of that. And in fact, you can see some of the stuff on TV right now, which is pretty cool.
I mean, that's exciting because we talk about what's it going to take for mass adoption, and it's partnerships like this actually happening, coming to fruition.
And getting actual players.
We're talking millions of eyeballs here.
Millions and millions and millions of eyeballs. So that's something that we're very excited about, and it's a very, very fun poker game. So I think that a lot of people are really going to enjoy that.
Cool. Well, I've gotten to know Neil a little bit this morning, and I think, the history of how you guys got together and what you all are building, we should definitely go into. When did you first meet Neil?
Let's do it. I'll give a little tiny brief introduction here. So I met Neil because my boss, Eric Schiermeyer, okay, who is the founder of Gala and was one of the co-founders of Zynga, sent me an email that was a forward from Neil. Okay, Neil was saying, hey, we've got this thing, we'd really like you to talk about it. And Eric forwards me a lot of these things. So if you ever send Eric an email with like some inbound request that you're looking at something, it's very likely that I'm the one who will go through that and follow up on it. So if you don't hear back, it's probably my fault, my bad. So that's how I met Neil, and we were able to get together then and start talking about things and found that we were just extremely well aligned. How about you tell them a little bit about Rep, Neil?
So basically, we were very aligned with how well our visions complement each other. So I can briefly talk about social network.
I mean, you started Rep when?
Yeah, so Rep was started about 9 months ago, and it was done to help our game RawBots have more engagement and create more different kinds of users that could interact with the ecosystem. So in RawBots, for example, you can build robots like Lego, and you can explore space. Robot building is kind of complicated. So how do we add more variety of different kinds of players into that ecosystem? So we decided to create a social network, and users can find robot parts in the real world, and they can interact with each other by trading robot parts. Maybe they don't want to play the game, but they want to trade robot parts for other types of NFTs or other types of in-game items, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, that's going to be really exciting as you kind of merge those worlds together. And just to sort of touch on the synergy that you had with Jason and Gala a little bit more in depth, like how do you guys look at the creative process of building games, and what's different about sort of adding the blockchain piece to it?
The blockchain piece, if I go back to like Web 2, so you think of a social network in Web 2, your name, your user ID, your account, whatever, would be some entry in a database. Whereas in blockchain, all of that stuff is around a different way of thinking, like your wallet address, right? Everything is around that. Everything is centered around you owning your data, and it's not anything to do with the database anymore. So that's a fundamental shift between Web 2 and Web 3. And what we're really doing is we're trying to take the best of what was working with Web 2 and bring it to a period in which we believe people are ready for owning your own data, data privacy, right? And also hopefully, different ways of thinking about censorship. So.
Yeah, I appreciate sort of that.
What got you excited in particular to work with Gala? I mean, obviously they're a juggernaut. They're building a lot of great games. One of the leaders in that side of the space. What was it about sort of the chemistry that you felt with your background in gaming?
Yeah, so
I believe that
Probably tell them about actually knowing Eric too.
I would say that my pivot in gaming, so originally I was building games, the traditional types of games that you would expect from Xbox, PlayStation, that sort of thing. And I was interviewed by Eric at Zynga. And Eric is the one that offered me my first job in this kind of gaming. So where you really had to think about user experience, you had to think about making things, what they called at Zynga, stupid simple. And the importance of creating stupid simple interfaces that lead to really powerful experiences was drilled into me pretty much every day of working at Zynga. So full circle back, 15 years later, I didn't have to go into that way of thinking with any of these guys, because I know Eric is the one that was responsible in teaching me so many of these ideologies to make things simple. That pretty much made me think a certain way for these 15 years. So everything I was really focused on working on building has always been around user experience first. So that's primarily what we do.
I really appreciate that. I was talking to an investor and friend of another company in the space the other night, and I think he was saying he lost his tokens, he doesn't know how to get to them, and that might be an indication of why that company is struggling. I think we overcomplicate things a lot in Web3, and Jason, I think we've talked about this before, that the key to mass adoption, one of the other keys is simplicity, but that word means different things to different people and can be applied in so many different ways. It really is about boiling it down to super, super simple, right?
Well, the thing that you always have to ask yourself in this space is, when you say simple, do you mean simple for an engineer, or do you mean simple for my grandmother? Okay, because a software engineer and my grandmother are going to have very different levels of experience, but the majority of people who use digital products tend towards my grandmother's end of the spectrum. Okay, now she can barely use a computer. It's tragic to watch sometimes, but it's that degree of simplicity that we have to design for. Okay, and one of the things that we see about some social media networks and things like that is they have made it quite easy to go there, click on the post button, say whatever ridiculous thing you want to say. And I think that this is interesting because Rep presents a new way to look at social media and a new way to look at that experience without making it difficult for people to engage with, which I think is absolutely critical.
Well, let's talk about that. I mean, an analogy, I was helping my mom with getting on my Netflix account this week, and they give you 4 ways to do that now. You got the QR code, you got the link, you got the password option, and we figured it out pretty quickly. And that was an achievement for my mom and I interacting on technology. She's in Boston, I'm here. And that popped into my mind as you're talking, because that's how simple it has to be when we're talking about gaming and music and all these things, right? That makes sense. So you mentioned this new social network, which you all are building together, Gala Friends. Sounds really exciting. Would love to dive into what that looks like a little bit more, Neil.
Yeah, sure.
So really, for phase one, the basic social network is going to be what you would already expect from social networks like Twitter or any of the other ones.
I don't know what to expect from Twitter.
That's a good point.
So simplicity, right? So users will be able to create posts, be able to interact with each other, much in the way you already expect. The other component is the gamification and the geocaching component. So it's very much centered around the map and treasure hunts and being able to find treasures. Treasure chests can have music, it can have videos, it can have secret messages, pictures, but it can also have NFTs inside them. And so imagine a social network revolving around this treasure hunt component where it can facilitate a vision where all of the various aspects of the Gala ecosystem can be brought together in a seamless way. So that's the vision for Gala Friends.
It's really exciting. Now, with other social networks, occasionally you can get into a situation where people are DMing each other in real time and interacting, close to real time, and then there's also opportunities to sort of interact statically at different moments. I imagine there'll be a little bit of both in this network, where you can get together with your friends and do things, but you can also sort of interact at different times if someone happens to go to bed early or something.
I wish I could answer that question to the full depth, because there's so much being planned, and Jason's very well aware of some of the cool stuff that we're doing in terms of player interaction. Let's just say that whatever you expect right now from multiplayer player interactions, we're definitely pushing the limit on many of those things. But yeah, you'll be able to see your friend online. You'll be able to play a Gala game with your friend, and you'd be able to explore treasure hunts or any of the things that around geocaching, this more higher level of engagement, these kinds of mechanics, you'll be able to experience with your buddies online. So
that makes sense. It's a bold decision to build a new social platform at this moment in time, and I'm sure not one you took lightly, Jason. Why are you building this platform?
To be clear, we're not the ones building it. Neil's the one building it, which is one of the things that I love about it, because what it demonstrates is that Gala Chain is growing up. Gala Chain is now ready to bring on external developers to connect with people and have other people build on the infrastructure that we have created, which is profoundly impactful in ways that people don't yet understand. So pay attention. This is very important.
It still begs the question, though, like why this is one of the early infrastructure projects you wanted to support, right? It seems like a pretty fundamental thing, but it has to be done the right way. So what are some of your thoughts on that?
So for me, the things that are most important, right? Okay, anytime you look at a social media network, and it's actually kind of funny, because we were going to drop the announcement, and the morning that we were going to drop the announcement that we were partnering and working together, Threads launched. Like that morning, and we're like, whoa, okay, pump the brakes here for just a second. I don't really feel like getting in the water with Zuckerberg, when he's trying a new thing, right? Let's
make sure you guys have your own moment.
Yeah, let's just let that one slow down for a second, and wow, did that slow down. It's still like turgidly circling the bowl, but nobody uses Threads, I don't think. Do you know of anyone that?
I jumped on the first week. I mean, we're trying to figure out how much of a presence do we need on it. It's a question, but it reminds me a lot of Clubhouse and.
Right. Well, I mean, the thing with it is it's cool, okay, but Threads only works in connection with Instagram. Okay, and it's like the place that you go to get long form content about avocado toast, right? It's like the picture that you see on Instagram, I really want to see this person's long form content, so then you go over to Threads. Okay, and it's this weird, disparate, disconnected experience. It's strange. Right now, there's never been a better time to launch a new social media network. okay? Because Facebook is weird, okay? Very few people in our industry or even in, our general age bracket are heavy Facebook users. Like my wife uses it for Marketplace to buy kids' toys.
I've been locked out of my account for like 3 months and I don't miss it.
And you don't miss it, right? It's where my grandmother posts like weird rants about things.
And then
And it's, other than that, not a thing that most people use, right? You use it for Marketplace, maybe that's it. Okay, Twitter, the Bird app, X, whatever we're calling it these days, has its own unique issues. Big fan, I love it, use the hell out of it, but it's got its own issues.
It's been good to the industry. I mean,
exactly. And so I have a great deal of loyalty to it, but it doesn't do everything, okay? And I mean, even Spaces, for example, is a great example of this. I would use the hell out of Spaces if I could do it from my computer. The fact that I have to do it from my phone.
They just changed that.
They just changed it?
So you are in luck there. This happened like a week or two ago. So yeah, that was nice.
Okay, so hey, good job, Elon.
Yeah, kudos on that one.
So, but I mean, that's the thing though, is that there isn't kind of your one place stop for all of these things.
Right.
And there's a tremendous marketplace for this. And I think that's where Rep comes in, because Rep fills these needs and connects all of these different pieces together in a very positive way while giving you data sovereignty and allowing you to control your own data and not be a product, right? Like that's one of the differentiating features between, Web 2 and Web 3, right? Web 1 back in the day, is this kind of weird decentralized thing of a bunch of people running servers on their own, right? Then Web 2 comes and you have all of these Web 2 companies that come doing the free to whatever, okay? Free to host your pictures, free to post social media content. Nobody pays for Twitter, right? Or I mean, people do, but that's not to post. Anyone can do these things for free. Nobody pays for Facebook. Well, Facebook certainly pays the bills. How does Facebook pay the bills? Okay, and the way that Facebook pays the bills is because in Web 2, you're not using the product. You are the product, and that product is using you. And Web 3 attempts to change this. And the question, though, is how do we take information and concepts from Web 2 that are viable, interesting concepts and bring those to Web 3, where we, take out the bad, keep the good, and continue building in a positive direction.
Neil, no pressure, but in all seriousness, I think we're all looking for that, and I think that gaming is such an obvious sort of lubricant for that type of social economy. You mentioned the treasure hunts and whatnot. It sounds like this is a way for people to organically sort of stumble on new experiences, new games, things that they would do, which I think is how people like to embrace new content. This is a thought I didn't have until you shared that, but you kind of like new ideas, new brands, new concepts, not be shoved in your face, but to sort of just naturally decide you like them. Like your friend has a pair of jeans and you see someone else wearing, like, oh, those are cool jeans, as opposed to like that jean company saying, buy my jeans tomorrow.
Consume.
So it sounds like in a lot of ways there's a social layer of sort of e-commerce that's sort of naturally going to be embedded into a product like this, not because it's e-commerce forward, but because that's what people do as humans. They try new things, they experience new things together, right?
Exactly. That's also primarily where Rep stems from, is trying to make things more organic, trying to make discovery a lot more organic. It's not like I have to tell you about this particular game. You found this NFT in the park on your morning jog or something like that, and you find this treasure chest, you play this little game and you open it up and there it is. You click it, maybe you found a dinner for two coupon at the beach, at a restaurant. You didn't know about this restaurant before, but now you go there and they just look at your phone, they go use and they have you sit down and do that. So it doesn't have to just be games. Like life is a game in many aspects. And if we start to think about organic interactions with people, we can bring that back into into this social platform, this social network. And that's where I would say we're not trying to be like X, Twitter, Threads, Facebook. We're not trying to be like them. What we're trying to do is our own thing. We're trying to bring gamification, improve user engagement, and make this connection between us much more synergistic in the online, like in that space. And to touch upon one point that Jason was talking about, the disconnectedness, like where you're having to shift different apps. You're on Discord, you're on Telegram, you're on YouTube, whatever. Our vision for Rep is to have as many of these experiences in one platform. So everyone's engaging in this platform. So, you know, while you're trying to share your opinion on something, you can also play a treasure hunt game. You can play an actual mobile game. You can play all of these things together and still have it be within that social network. You don't have to keep bouncing around.
Well, excited to check it out and follow your progress. I'm sure we'll have a lot of updates on what you guys are doing in that area. You know, I think one of the key aspects of this sort of broader adoption is the vocabulary that we use. And we were talking a little bit about that, Jason, before the interview, that you all are thinking about sort of lexicon for sort of a broader audience a little differently these days.
Yeah, I mean, this has kind of been something that I've
hammered on for close to a decade now in this industry. I've always thought that the lexicon that we've used in the blockchain space has been particularly terrible because, I mean, you take something like cryptocurrency, right? It's almost designed to sound scary, okay? Yeah. And, you know, like, what is this? Well, it's cryptocurrency. What do you do with cryptocurrency? Illegal, hidden stuff. Like, that's the narrative that is, especially at the beginning. I mean, obviously it's a bit different now, but you go back 5-6 years ago, you know, you ask people what Bitcoin was 5-6 years ago, and the response that you would have gotten was, oh, well, isn't that the thing that the people buy the drugs with? You know. But
fundamentally, it's still confusing.
It's still confusing. It's a terrible term. It should never have been the term that was chosen. And, you know, we did not make this any better with the advent of NFTs, okay? Non-fungible tokens. Oh, that's super fun, guys. Like, you know, non-fungible tokens. It's just does not roll off.
Even though it has fun in the name.
It has fun in the name, but
that's about it.
But that's it, yeah. And so when we look at this, the way that we look at non-fungible tokens, okay, the way that we look at NFTs in general, right? Which, by the way, there's a big, gigantic amount of gradation, if you will, between something that's actually non-fungible and something that's a fungible token, but they all kind of get called non-fungible tokens because that's what people call them. We look at them as verifiable digital assets. So your verifiable digital asset is something that you're able to on-chain verify that you own, okay? It has utility in a game, it has utility in a social media network, it has utility wherever it has utility, but it's not an NFT, you know, that is kind of stuffed off to one side in this weird NFT degen culture. It's a verifiable digital asset that can be anything. It can be anything from real estate to, you know, to a treasure chest to an in-game item. You know, digital asset, verifiable, super simple.
Is this sort of naming live now and something you're adopting across all of Gala?
We're looking at changing the way that we have this conversation, and this is part of it. The other thing is that you'll notice in a lot of the games that we've been releasing lately, you know, look at Dragon Strike or look at Meow Match, things like that, we're really dialing back mentions of blockchain in general. Now, it's still there. It's still part of the tech layer, but the average user does not interface with it unless they need to. And so I think that taking that angle is going to massively help with adoption, because we have a lot of people that when they first come into the space, they are kind of alarmed, to be honest, to start dealing with some of these concepts like cryptocurrency and NFTs. But a digital asset is something that they understand, and hey, this is a thing that happens on this distributed ledger, okay? Which is a blockchain, yes, but it's not necessary to describe it that way for the average user coming in from, just normie land.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, there was a reason we evolved the name of NFT Outer Edge LA this year, and I am curious what you say to sort of some of the OGs in the space. There's folks in the space that really have an appreciation for certain words that we've used over the last 2 years and certain concepts. And I'm sure you guys get feedback on that side of the house too. What's your sort of response to that element of the community?
I mean, the way that it goes is this: is you can always use whatever terminology you want, but the question that you have to ask is, what will the long-term impact be of continuing to exist without mass adoption? Because if you acknowledge that the name of something is blocking adoption, you have two options. You either cling to the name and say, this name is really important, okay? Or you modify that name into something else. Now, you see this all the time globally with brands, okay? My favorite example of this is the Chevy Nova, okay? Now, we haven't, you might see a Chevy, God, they haven't made a Chevy Nova in years, but the Chevy Nova, okay, Nova means a exploding star, right? It's a super cool sounding thing in English, but like you put it in Spanish, Nova, it doesn't go, right? And so it's like, well, okay, you can try to sell that in Mexico if you want, but you're not going to do very well with it because it's a terrible name for that specific context. You can take a name like cryptocurrency and NFT, and if you are a cryptographically oriented person, or you're a person that's in high technology, or you're a person you're an engineer and you're in the software space, these names are fine. They're totally fine, okay? If you're a grandmother who wants to play a cat game, then that's not gonna work. And so what we have to say is, okay, are we going to create an ecosystem that is dedicated only to those who are in high technology and early adopters? If we're going to do that, then let's stick with the names we've got. If we're going to build something that can be inclusive and bring everybody on as users, then we need to change some things up.
Makes sense. So I think that leads to a broader conversation around what culture and philosophies and tenets you're bringing into these games that you're building, the music projects you're working on, the film projects that you're working on. You did a project with Walking Dead, did another game, The Last Frontier. Last Expedition. Too much going on for me to keep track of. Well, we'll get there. We'll figure it out. But as you're sort of building all these projects, how are you thinking about gameplay and gamification differently in order to sort of get more folks excited?
Well, so differently than people in this space?
Correct. I'd say just differently in a way that actually creates broader adoption.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, though. The thing that in the blockchain space, and thankfully this is getting a lot better, though, but for the last few years, there hasn't been anyone making any actual games. There haven't been any games out there. There have been some, DeFi protocols with stickers on, which is cool. Kind of like the Hot Wheels lunchbox with the stickers that you get on it. It's still not going to be as awesome as an actual game, And so what we've been doing is we've been building and focusing on building amazing games that are amazing gaming experiences first, that are fun first, no matter what. And so you look at Last Expedition. Last Expedition is a fantastic example of this. It's built Studio 5x5 Studios based in Austin, Texas, which is a wholly owned subsidiary of Gala Games. It's led by Phil Wattenbarger. Phil Wattenbarger is the guy who was the project director, I believe, on Halo Infinite and the last Call of Duty multiplayer mods. There's a lot of the same engineers and designers who built Halo Infinite and the last Call of Duty are the ones that are building Last Expedition. It's a AAA first-person PvP, PvE shooter, and it is wickedly fun. And it's wickedly fun whether you give a shit about blockchain or not, or care about NFTs or not. It doesn't matter. What matters is that it's a fun game. And then if you want to get involved in what I refer
To as like the entrepreneurial metagame, which is where some of the play to earn out and start to tie. And this is where
you can have your own world essentially, and you get to place the monsters on that. You could have a potential prize pool for winning your world. You could run your own tournaments. You can do all sorts of things if you want to. That's where blockchain can start to come in and support things, but it's completely optional. You can just have fun with it without that.
I think one key unstated component here to your strategy is it's not about just targeting that same audience of OG crypto folks, maybe call it 28 to 35 male, right? Like you're releasing a lot of different types of consumable content for different audiences at different age groups. And you're sort of, I mean, that's a major part of all this with all these different projects, right?
Yes, absolutely. And this is why, we do things in film, we do things in music, and our focus isn't on, gee, how can we make this look super blockchain? It's on how can we take something and make it super blockchain without anyone knowing. That's where we get the crazy adoption.
Can we touch on the film and music side for a moment?
Yeah, sure.
What's going on there? Is that having to do with your trip here to LA?
It does. I can't really talk much about the music side of things, but I am very actively involved, and we've got some interesting stuff popping off over the next few days and the next week that I'm down here in Los Angeles for, which should be very entertaining and interesting. The film side of things, rather, there's a lot of really, really cool stuff that's going on there. In fact, just a few weeks ago, I got back from San Diego Comic-Con, where we had a panel there with, we had a couple different panels. We had Ghosts of Ruin, okay, which is an anime series that's built on Gala Film. They had a panel in Hall H, which is the big hall. Super cool to go in there and sort of see all of the development that has taken place and see some of the trailers. We're doing a bunch of stuff with David Bianchi.
David's a good friend of ours.
Okay,
one of the first folks I met in the space several years back. And
David's amazing.
Yeah, shout out to David and what he's building with Razor.
With Razor,
really,
super cool.
Really incredible. I got a chance to listen to the first live read of Razor.
Go.
So
nice. Yeah. So yeah, then, I mean, there's just so much going on, and it's beautiful to watch it evolve and grow.
Well, we're excited to sort of grow with you as we're sort of wrapping up this conversation. Is there anything else on your roadmap together, Neil, that you wanted to touch on?
Well, I think we've touched on the greater vision of what the social network is meant to
be, to help tie things together, to make our interactions more meaningful and engaging.
No, I think that's pretty much.
I would just like to invite everyone to come join our community, to come check out what we've got going on. You can join our Discord at galagames.chat, and also follow us at @GoGalaGames on all of the places that you might think to follow us. And pay special attention, because we're doing some really cool stuff with Rep. They could give you basically your own little hardcore home on your own social media, in your own social media space. So pay special attention there. There's a lot of cool stuff coming.
All right. Maybe there's an Edge of NFT broadcast studio in Rep at some point.
I would love there to be an Edge of NFT broadcast studio in Rep. That would be great.
Cool. Neil, where do folks go to learn more about what you're up to with Rep and follow you?
Yeah, so most of our discussions are happening at the Gala Discord. So you can learn there, and you can also check us out at Rep.Run. So rep.run.
Cool. One-stop shopping there. And Jason, you've been really generous with us in the past in our community with some giveaways. I think you mentioned that.
Ooh, yeah, I should do a thing, huh?
You have some. I mean, there were so many games coming out. Which one are we going to focus on?
Let's do this. Let's make it extra spicy. Should we do that?
I like spicy.
I've got an ancient tier NFT, a verifiable digital asset, from Last Expedition that they'll do a giveaway for, and they'll tell me who to send it to.
Amazing.
So however you guys want to handle that on your social media or something like that, but I've got something for your community.
and I will make sure that it is effingly awesome.
I'm sold. So check that out, listeners. We'll share more details on our social soon. And I think that's it for this Edge of Gala episode, but looking forward to more to come. As our listeners have heard, there's a lot to unpack here, a lot going on, a lot of actual launches happening instead of talking. That's fun for a change.
Yeah, it's nice, guys. It's a really busy next few months, so hang in there.
Hang in there, and for now, we've reached the outer limit of the Edge of NFTs for today. Thanks for exploring with us. We've got space for more adventures on the Starship, so invite your friends and recruit some cool strangers that'll make this journey also much better. How? Go to Spotify or iTunes right now, rate us, say something cool. Then go to edgeofnft.com to dive further down the rabbit hole. Look us up on all major social platforms by typing Edge of NFT with no spaces. Start a fun conversation with us online. Lastly, be sure to tune in next time for more great NFT content. Thanks again for sharing this time with us today. Thanks, guys, for joining me.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
The views and opinions expressed on Edge of NFT reflect solely those views and opinions of the show hosts and its guests. Please make sure to do your own research. Our show is not financial advice. You understand that you are using any and all information available on or through this podcast at your own risk. Whenever making financial decisions, we recommend doing your own research and talking to your accountant for financial advice. From time to time, we may feature sponsored content on the show for which we receive value, and we may share links for which we receive a commission if you make a purchase through one of those links. Refer to our website, www.edgeofnft.com, for our full disclaimer, terms and conditions, and privacy policy.